People often say that they want accountability from others, that people should be accountable for their actions. And that's true. In and of itself, people should be. People should be accountable both for good and bad things that they do. But I find that often when people say this about others, what they really mean is that others should admit to the faults that this first group of people perceive in them, rather than being accountable for perhaps misdeeds that they themselves think that they've actually committed. For example, person A might think that person B has done something wrong that they won't admit to. They want to get them to admit some fault, some failing that they think that person B is not admitting to, won't be open about. But person A is just inferring this problem in person B. Person A just thinks that person B is guilty of something that person B doesn't think they are. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people mean when they say that people don't hold themselves accountable. They're really just saying that others don't judge themselves by the same moral standards that they judge others by. When it comes right down to it, we can only be accountable to ourselves. We can only judge ourselves, and that's good. We should be accountable to ourselves. We should be our own judges. We should hold ourselves honestly accountable for everything we do, good or bad. We should not hold back. We should take ourselves to account. We should be sincere in our self-judgment and our self-assessment. We should not hold back in any way, because only we can ultimately judge ourselves. Only we can know whether we are truly guilty of something, or innocent of something for that matter. But when it comes to being guilty of something, to some personal failing, some moral failing, some failing of character, only we can truly judge ourselves. But we can only reach that standard and judge ourselves accurately if we give ourselves permission and have the fortitude to be truly honest with ourselves. If we are willing to look at the parts of ourselves that we don't like, the things that maybe even disgust us. We have to be prepared to look at and truly see and maybe even embrace these things we don't like about ourselves. We have to be honest in every way, in every facet of ourselves. And I think that's true accountability. I think that that's what people should be striving for and should be encouraging in others, not judging others for not admitting to the faults that we think they're guilty of, but encouraging others to be honest with themselves and we should not be prying into what others think they are guilty or innocent of. That's missing the point. We should encourage others to be truthful with themselves, just as we have to be truthful with ourselves. We have to be honest and sincere if we want that out of anyone else. And only we can know what we need to feel guilty about. Only we truly know when we've failed. Only we truly know when we've fallen short of our own standards, because ultimately every moral failing, every failing of any kind is ultimately a failure that is judged by our standards. We each have our own standards, and we judge ourselves and others by those standards. And so if we are to be honest, we have to admit that we can't fully judge others. I'm not saying that we can't judge others at all, or that there's no place for some judgment in moral matters or in matters of success or failure, but we should recognize that ultimately moral failings are something that has to be realized internally and judged internally. We have to be honest with ourselves and try to correct the things that we know, if we are being honest, that we failed in. We have to confront those things and try to change them. And that, I think, is the mistake that some people make when they, perhaps I'm judging them unfairly myself, that's entirely possible, but I think some people mistake the judgment of others for a sort of objective moral quality that can ultimately only be realized by the person that is in full possession of the facts. Only we as individuals can fully understand our own moral code, our own lives. And so to fully understand whether we've fallen short of those things, of those virtues, of those measures, then only we can fully understand that in almost all aspects of life. Rarely do we possess the full set of facts about another person, about whether they've lived up to our standards or their standards, because there's always so much of another person, about their inner lives, even their outer lives, that we simply don't understand, because we can only appreciate a small portion of another human being. We can't completely grasp them. No matter how hard we try, we can only approximate the true nature of another person's soul within our own minds, within our own hearts. And so we have to look inwards and judge ourselves honestly and earnestly, and encourage others to do the same, but recognize that if we think others are not holding themselves accountable for what we perceive to be their failings, we might be completely mistaken, and we might simply be ignorant of what's really going on inside them and the full facts of their lives. We may not completely understand that person. And if we can't completely understand that person, how can we say that they are not taking full accountability for what we perceive to be their mistakes?